Okay. And we're also going to be doing this for the YouTube channel. We're already going, right?
I just started it.
You just started it. Okay. So you're going to get a great view of the side of my head.
Looking great. That's your good side.
The back of my head is okay. All right. Whenever you're ready, we're live now?
Okay. I'll start it.
Welcome, everybody. We're here for another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. I've got two of the Startup Junkies with me today, Chandler.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me on.
And I've also got Haley as well. So we've got our founder, our executive director of the Startup Junkie Foundation, and Chandler is kind of jack of all trades Alpus. But importantly, we've got two really great guests here today. We have Helena Gadison.
Hello.
Who is a world-renowned expert in personal branding, lots and lots of corporate experience, speaking experience. She's going to be the keynote at this year's upcoming Young Professionals Summit. So we're
looking forward to it.
Really glad to have you here. We've
you.
Also got Dr. Bowtie Todd Jenkins. That's a mouthful.
Hey,
we're so happy to have you back on. We're happy to have you back on. So
appreciate you.
Thanks. And he's got many titles in addition to being the head of diversity at J.B. Hunt. Runs his own professional consulting firm, and just a doer of many things, an influencer, and we're really glad to have you back on.
We are so happy to be here. Thank you for the platform.
You bet, you bet. So today, in addition to learning a little bit more about you all, we want to get some of the key messages that you plan to bring out, Helena, at the Young Professional Summit. So let's start with your background. So what brought you to this place where you are today? We'll start with Helena and we'll learn a little bit more.
Do we have enough time to cover?
For you,
anything, right?
Multiple segments, no worries.
Jeff, first of all, and to your team, thank you for having me. Well, I started in corporate with people like Walmart, the Limited Stores, Inc., the Lake Bryant Division, and that experience afforded me the opportunity to open up a business, to know really about branding, not branding just for product, but for the individual. And that experience has kind of brought me to where I am today of being I call myself a brand master. And we are comfortable talking about brands when it's outside of ourselves, meaning products we buy for our bodies and our homes. But when we turn that around and look at ourselves as a commodity and how we're looked at in the workplace, whether you're an entrepreneur or in a corporate situation, it gets a little more uncomfortable. And I want people to get comfortable with those tools because it applies to ourselves and it can have a big difference in the trajectory of our careers. And when you talk about my background, what made you able to do this? Working for Walmart for about 16 years, I worked from store operations, merchandising, branding, global sourcing, people development, product development, and all of that experience kind of prepared me for being able to look at something, a person or an entity, a product, and say, how can it be the best that it can be? How can it be relevant to a user? And then how does it refine itself over time to stay relevant to the user? And that message, what I learned in that time in Walmart and with the Limited Inc., I'm applying those things to share with the audience. And this is my second year. Is this my second or third year?
Third year.
This is my third year. I've been promoted. So
I'm doing a keynote this year, right?
Yes, I'm the keynote this year. And it seems like the grassroots survey that they filled out, Jeff, I seem to score okay. The audience,
We love her.
the audience thought I was pretty relevant, okay? You were there, excellent.
It's nice to get invited back, and it's nice to get invited back with a promotion.
Yes, so I'm taking it. But that lets me know that this message of the science of branding,
Sure.
Corporations spend billions on branding. When you look at P&Ls for those corporations, it's just staggering numbers. And so there's a reason behind that. And it's not just creating product or creating a tagline for a company, we help people to save money to live better.
Right,
I mean, we know some of these phrases that are out there, but it's how did you get to that?
Right.
And at the session that your listeners hopefully will be participating in, I talk about how to get to a personal branding. And it's not just saying, I want to be what Jeff is, so I think I'm going to make my branding that.
Right.
I want to be what Haley is. You have to have, there's a formula. And I talk a lot about PIA. That's an acronym for passion, interest, and ability. And there is a formula that if you can get those three mojos working for you and on the right path, you've landed on a sound and authentic brand.
Yeah, that's a good question. That was going to be my segue. When you think about it, there's such a desire, and I think this would be true of people of any age, but probably young professionals, with authenticity and people being genuine and it not being a facade or a veneer. But how do you convey the ability to develop a good personal brand with the right balance of humility and authenticity? How do you teach people to do that?
Well, you teach them, and do I get an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes? In this very short time period, the PIA is the key aspect. That P for passion. A lot of us have not spent a lot of time sitting in a quiet corner really thinking about what are we passionate about. We haven't done that work, that self-work. And then we think we know what our interests are, but not for sure. And especially when someone tells you to write it down and really, put your top 3. And I try to spend a lot of time on that because that really helps us to define what we're going to be satisfied with, what we're going to be authentic in over a long period of time. That abilities, that A at the end, a lot of us have been driven to think that should be what we focus on only. Statistically, and you can go look it up on the internet and so forth, when you direct your career and your path down abilities only, meaning what you went to school for, what your mom and dad did, or what was bequeathed to you, if there is no passion or interest in that, statistically, you will go down another path and then another path. And then that creates frustration, that creates disengagement. And what I'm trying to help people, especially starting young in their career, and of course the audience, this is not just for young, we don't put an age on this.
For sure.
Right.
It's open to everyone. Because
young at heart.
Young and young at heart, because let me tell you something, the audiences that I've spoken to over the last 10 years, these have been mid-managers, executives, across a lot of different industries. You haven't heard the message of personal branding. If you haven't heard it, if you've never taken time to create a personal brand, you haven't done it.
Right.
And so you have to kind of go back and do the homework, and I want to stop people from having to spend 10 or 15 years in the wrong career.
Let me get Todd.
And then get frustrated about it and then not have the success they want.
I have a question too.
Let's reel Todd in.
Come on, Todd. I know they're picking on me.
Yes, I love it. No, this is perfect. I love it.
Todd, you're an entrepreneur yourself, and I can imagine that you have really adopted and implemented this whole personal branding with, just in the fact that we're calling you Dr. Bowtie Todd.
I don't know why.
I wonder where that came from. He's heard the message.
So you've heard this message. How important do you think this is uniquely for an entrepreneur?
Yes, that's a really great question. The interesting thing is that this brand was somewhat given to me, and I chose to adopt it and manifest it to really capitalize on it from my harmony of who I am and what I have the passions to do, as well as my ability. Everything that Ms. Helena said is really, really aligned with branding. And I would tell you, as an entrepreneur, what's very, very important is to be able to get in those spaces, to really see what is the world telling you and what are you trying to tell the world, and try to find something in the middle. And I think we do so much of trying to either capitalize on what someone else is doing, and we try to build our life around that we lose our, being authentic. Yeah, you lose yourself in the midst. And I say with the whole Bowtie platform, I saw it as a conversation starter. And then I noticed that, people will just, all around the world, people say, I like your bow tie, or they're like, oh man, what's that about, and things like that. And that gave me the opportunity to lean in, if I chose to tell them a little about my background or my platform. And so now people start saying, oh, that's the bow tie guy. Now I don't just sell bow ties. That's the funny thing about this. We do consulting. We are all about the people, and the bow tie is an acronym of how we engage in everyday conversations. And how we try to unravel and we connect and tie it together to make you better than you came in. And so that's what we do as a platform. But one thing that resonated well with me that I do today is that I understand about Brandon is that you are the CEO. And you are a CEO first of Me Incorporated. And if you are not being your own CEO and running your own brand, someone else is. And so that's for me. I adopted that, and I found a place that I can harmonize and that I'm comfortable with to be branded as such.
And that is like a perfect commercial. testimony for what you're going to hear, because in the presentation, and you've heard it as well, Haley, people are like, they start squirming in their seats after we do the exercises about consumer brands and things that we all, Starbucks, Nike, and Adidas, all these things, Walmart, why we choose to use those brands or not use them. There's by the immediate touch, look, smell, or sight, a brand evokes a certain emotion. It can be trust, you hope it's trust, or it could be fear, or whatever it may be. So how do you get that for yourself to be what you want it to be? So after I get everybody comfortable with me, then I get them uncomfortable.
Sure.
And then I say, so if you don't outline your brand, someone else will. And it will be based on what they see from an exterior. So on your worst day, Haley, the day that you car didn't start, you were running late, you spilled coffee on your skirt, and you come in and your whole demeanor is just off. What if that was the day that your office or your staff or your team chose to brand you? What if that set the course for your career or for how you were defined as a leader?
Well, let me ask you a question on that. So everyone has bad days, and obviously a brand, any company brand, we preach be consistent, be mindful of the brand in everything that you do. There are some days where you're not living up to your aspirational personal brand.
Absolutely.
What do you
And we talk about that, and we talk about those flukes. And again, I try to take it off of the individual, and I use stories that we know about. So I use the example of Target. Target was a brand that had been established of, they're a discounter, but they're a different discounter. They carry more stylish products, or whatever, however you, in your mind, brand them. And they had a miss. They had a betrayal of trust for the consumer when the credit card, when the information was
when they were hacked.
when they were hacked.
Yeah.
And that was a period, and how their PR team handled it. I mean, it was tough. But they overcame that, and it's because there was a consistency, there was groundwork, there was a foundation that had been laid about their brand. I use that as an example, as well as the one with Starbucks. Starbucks also had an off day when an employee chose to treat a customer differently just because of her lens of how she looked at that particular customer. Saw it as a threat, thought it wasn't right for them to be in the store, called the police, and what happened?
Sure.
That was an off day. But look at how Starbucks responded. It went right back to their brand. Some could say they over-responded, but Starbucks almost gained my trust even more because of how they responded, because they wanted it known to their consumers that we're an inclusive, inviting, we are the hangout place. That's a part of our brand. We don't want to change that. And we apologize that we had this off moment, but let us show you how serious we are about it, that we're overcorrecting, we're closing for half a day so that we can do inclusive or training, diversity training. So I go back to the example of you having that off day. I try to make you aware of what the 80% of your time looks like, that you're aware of your look, your mannerisms, how you conduct yourself, because you could be the most brilliant person in the room. And we're not getting the benefit of it because you got branded on that one day. But if for the most part, if 80% of your time is you're aware, consistent, and you're aware of whatever that brand is you want it to be, then that 20% or even that 10% that you have, you can kind of come back from. So you can salvage yourself from it.
Can you help me distinguish, and I think I know the answer, but I think people struggle with it, distinguish between what sometimes appears to be shameless self-promotion and developing a personal brand that may have all those elements of humility and being humble that people really admire. How do you do the personal branding and getting out there and differentiating well without it looking like self-aggrandizement?
Well, I don't know if if I'm the one to say the perfect blend, but where it becomes that selfish promotion, selfism, is where you're promoting a one-time thing and it's not necessarily aligned with the behavior that people usually see about you. When it's your brand, it's something that people see authentically about Todd. Bowtie Todd, if Todd is always promoting something like he's got tires today, and tomorrow he's going to be selling bow ties, and then he also speaks, if it's just all across the board, that's not being authentic Todd to his brand.
Sure.
And that's where people are like, you know what, he's just selling whatever, and it's just a promotion. It's a marketing scheme.
If it's tied to a bigger purpose, then
Tied to a bigger purpose.
answers that why question.
Yes.
Is that when it?
I think so.
Yeah,
I
you
think
kinda
so
draw
as
people in.
well.
What do you
Because
think?
I do believe that, and I think your brand. This is personally my own. This is my own thought. But when your brand can encompass service and helping others,
Demonstrated selfless
yes,
behavior.
and like and not a shameless plug, but I am working on a book project, and one of my chapters is bow tie untied.
But that ties
And
to it.
tying to what we're talking about is because so many people see me and brand me with the bow tie. When I don't have a bow tie on, people are like, "Is this an off day for you? Are you okay?"
You're out of
You
uniform.
know, yeah. What's going
I've
on?
never seen you without a
And it's fascinating. But I don't wear bow ties to the gym or to the beach and things of that
But it
nature.
might be cool if you did.
I know, right? And I can start a new trend.
We might be talking about an extension of his brand that does include product. You know my background.
You're right.
We might have
We
to
can
add.
talk about it, but I do think that to her point
Sure.
is that your brand has to be it has to be who you are. Even when I don't have a bow tie on, you still get my same behavior.
Right.
You still get my same approaches to service and to humanity because it's who I
Because
am.
that's a part
It's
of
part
his.
of
Right.
how I show up.
Consistent.
Exactly. And I think to the point is that it's also great to have off days. It's off today, it's also good to show people your vulnerability because that helps build trust and it helps build that you are a genuine person
Can be
and that
personal.
you're human.
Absolutely.
They believe it's not fabricated.
Exactly.
If they see that
Exactly.
you're human.
And especially as a personal brand. Now, when a company brand is a little different.
Right.
You have a consumer that you're out there really, but I think sometimes companies
But
show that
companies
too
do too.
as well.
Starbucks. I look at Starbucks. They showed their vulnerable side by admitting there was a mistake,
Right.
and they didn't try to do a PR,
Right, that is very
switch
true.
and bait or fancy spin
Sure.
on it. The CEO came and said, "We apologize. This is not the branding of our company. It's not the goal of our company, and we're going to not just say that, but here's our action to show that we have a little bit more work to do within our own corporation. We thought that the training that we do for onboarding covered this, but obviously it's not. And we're human. We make mistakes, but here's how we're going to overcorrect." So I think I'm not saying go try to make mistakes,
Right.
but when you do,
Own it.
own it, and I think people resonate with the human aspect of it because we're not perfect. But when that foundation of consistency of we kind of know what to expect from you, Haley, and what I teach is about what is that foundation. Because a lot of times people are off about what they're portraying to people. For example, you come in and you always have this stern look on your face, and when you're in the meeting, you're
That's because I
all
want my glasses on.
Oh, yeah,
I'm just
but it could be that, right? Or when you come in, you're always this one, where you don't realize that the message you're sending is that it's off-putting.
Yeah.
It looks disengaged, or either you look like you're not receiving anything
Right.
that's being said, or you know more than everyone in the room.
Sure.
Just by all of that,
Yeah.
and that is already being set up for your brand. If I don't ever see anything else from you, guess what? That's the brand I'm setting up for you. So when that next opportunity comes up of leading a team on a very innovative and out-of-the-box type of project that you might be best suited to lead, because of your intellect and your expertise, you don't get it because what we see of you, you're not the person we want to put with a diverse and
Sure.
eclectic team because of how you, so that one thing, but you showed that the most, and unbeknownst to you, you didn't know that a brand was being built on that. And then when we go and talk to you, and we pull you into the room, and we show you your behavior on the video, you're like, oh, no, that's just how that's how I think, and I was listening. And I like to make people cognizant that, well, let me tell you that
Those
behavior,
nonverbal cues.
those nonverbal cues, and
Yeah.
that you do it so consistently,
Yeah.
this is the brand that is out there for your product. And here's what it's stopping. Here's what you've missed over this period of time. So it's not a right or wrong. I don't want to change you from who you are. I'm making you aware that whether it's fair or not, those are things. Our speech, our look, our verb, all of that is inclusive in our
Chandler,
brand.
I'm gonna pull you into this.
Chandler's not. I think Chandler already knows. Yeah. Yes.
His energy, okay? So, thinking about, we help a lot of early stage entrepreneurs that it's just themselves and they're, bootstrapped, but they can launch a Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn page for free. So thinking about how to differentiate, do they combine their personal brand and their company brand and intermingle? Do they only do company stuff on the company page? You know, if it's just a one person or two person operation, how should those two things intermingle?
You know, this is a really good question.
That's an
because
excellent question.
I would love to hear the expert
thought.
talk
I have
about
thought
it,
of
but I would tell you as an entrepreneur, as a young person, I struggled with that in my initial early stages. You know, I was going through grad school. I was starting to do community work. I'm in a fraternity. I'm also do these other things, and no one can ever to this day, people have a hard time putting Todd in a box. Like, is Todd with this group? Does he work with this group? Who do he work for? People don't know, because it's what I have learned to become comfortable in my own skin and harmonize for me and not harmonize for the world. And what does that mean? Is that the way I show up in my business is also how I show up in the community. And that has been less stress for me. I don't have to turn it on and off. It is what you get. And I know everyone's in different stages of their life and they can't do that. So why do I tell you that? I remember, you may laugh at this, but people who are listening who know me very well, when I was in high school, you know, I changed a couple districts, so people didn't know what school I went to. When I went to college, I joined a fraternity, and people knew me as the Alpha Todd, or Todd Alpha, who was my fraternity. Right, they only knew that point, or they knew me as the church boy Todd. And so people started branding me. So on my Facebook, because sometimes my church and my fraternity didn't always been in the same room together socially. So it's like I struggle with, well, can I show that I'm out dancing at a party and when I know I have to go to church on Sunday? I used to struggle with what do I want the world to see, because I was being judged. When I went to college, I started working as a very young professional on a college campus. And I also was an advisor. And I was also in grad school. And I wanted to have fun, but I worked on a college campus, and I could not show that to my students. I could not show them that you can go and do these things on the clock, because Facebook used to capture everything. People used to tag you in every picture, and I was a social butterfly. So you would believe that people, and so when I used to work with the fraternity sorority community, people used to call me Greek Todd. They go Greek Todd. Everyone knew me as Greek Todd. And I'm like, wow, how is these people are giving these names? This is a moment of truth. When I was in grad school, I created 2 Facebooks. I had a Greek Todd and I had a Todd Jenkins. And I didn't allow anyone from the university to be a part of the Todd Jenkins, just because of the judgment that I got from the institution of how I need to show up and what's professional. And I used to challenge this all the time. Who determined what's professional? Who came up with this concept? What man on earth made this? You know, I was that person in college. And so I used to struggle with that. And then when I came into working professional in my career, I started to realize I cannot allow the world to put me in the box. Todd, who do you want to be? And who do you want to show up as? And bring your whole self to your work, bring your whole self to the community service, bring your whole self to the good and the bad. And therefore, where I'm at today, that's where I'm at. And so you'll look at Bowtie Todd on Instagram, Bowtie Todd Jenkins on Facebook, Todd Jenkins on Facebook, Bowtie Todd is a fan page, and the website. But you're gonna I share content, and my team share content, not only just business, but also personal. Because I want people to see that what we do is a part of my mission, and it's aligned with my harmony of how I show up and how I deliver my product and service. Now, certain entrepreneurs may have a different strategies and a different approach that they may want to do that and how they blend it. And some people will say keep it separate, and some people, but due to me, I'm in the people business. And my people business is how I show up as a personal, and that's kind of how my products and my services go.
And Todd, I respect and I align with several of the things that he said, because it works for his business model and a part of his brand. That's authentic Todd. When I'm teaching, and remember this message for the past 10 years has gone to learning institutions, high schools, universities. It has gone to churches and business executives, mid-management and above. I take an approach of making people aware of what you're going to see. So, for example, you decide that you want to be viewed as a very engaging, inclusive leader that can lead a broad group of people because you're a thinker. You can look at things from different perspectives. Okay, that's how you brand your stuff at college. But when I go to your Facebook page, the institutions, the organizations, the affiliations that you have chosen to promote on a regular basis is the complete opposite of that. And as I'm teaching during the presentation, I don't say what's right or wrong. I just say, well, when I go and look at you as a being and what you promote yourself as being as a leader, there are two different things. And that's where I have to make a judgment call of which one is he. And I try to put it in the audience seat. Do you really want someone to have to guess? Or do you really want them to kind of know what they're getting? When you're buying Nike shoes, you know what you're getting. Now, there are commercials, some go a little racier than the others, but there's a foundation of what the brand is. Just do it. You expect Nike to be cutting edge. We expect cutting edge product, we expect cutting edge fabrics, and therefore commercials being cutting edge makes sense if it pushes the envelope. So for you, once you define, people have the hardest time figuring out what do they want their brand to be. We've spent so much time trying to be like someone else that when we start really having to think about what are my passions, what is my interest, and my ability, I can go to school, I can be mentored, I can shadow someone, I can fill in the blanks there, but what's my passion and interest? I just tell you to be cautious of trying to have too many faces of yourself, because you're expecting then the user, the person that could be hiring you or promoting you, to have to guess which one is going to show up. So again, is it fair? No, because you're like, I'm a human being and I want to take a vacation and so forth.
There's still no replacement for discretion and good judgment, though.
Yes.
I mean, if for me, and it's sometimes it can be the most seemingly unimportant things, but you're always on parade. Something we learn in the military. People are always watching, particularly when you're in a position of leadership.
Sure.
And if you think about it, if your mother, your grandmother, your father, your grandfather, or a relative would be unhappy with something you've shared mindlessly on social media, it's probably a bad idea to share.
Yeah.
Or the customer of your business.
The customer of your business. I call it the end
Same thing.
user
Yeah,
of it.
same
And
idea.
so you have to decide. And again, it depends on industry, right?
Right.
If you're choosing to be in a dark business that is conducive to certain behavior, well, then you can
Share away.
share away
Sure.
because that helps your market.
Sure.
But if you're choosing to be whatever your brand is, and your brand represents X, and it's going to appeal to this broad demographic, I don't want you to be non-authentic, but I want you to then go back and look at what are you in that business then?
Yeah.
Right.
If how you live your life 365 days
Is
of the
not-
year is so
is-
opposite,
yeah.
then I would challenge you to the P and the I,
Right.
that you really haven't landed on the passion and interest, because how you live
Right.
is completely opposite. The groups you hang out with, the things you talk about, don't ever align with this business model you created. So it's hard for me as the user to go, I really believe that you want to, whatever that business is, because I haven't seen any aspect of that in your regular life.
Gets back to being a purpose-driven individual with a purpose-driven business that you can feel good about. It's not
Yes.
about stacking up money. It's about really changing
Well, but
lives.
that's what entrepreneurs usually go after first. It's like, what can make the
What
money?
can drive
Because
It's
money?
not.
You know?
I don't think you can generalize,
Well,
because
you're right,
a
that's fair.
lot of the research is there are some, and I believe me,
No,
you see
that's
1,000
fair,
of them a
that's
year.
fair.
But a lot of them are really about, it was autonomy, it was solving a big problem, it was
Yeah,
purpose-driven,
that's
I was unemployable because I just didn't fit in a corporate mold. There's a small percentage that's all about stacking the money up. The ones that live the best lives, and I've seen all of them in a very long career, are the ones that were really purpose-driven.
That's good.
And
well,
the money would
and I'm
follow.
sorry, let me correct my statement. What I was meaning by generalizing entrepreneurs is that usually that's the society have made that as a success
That's
rate.
part of the
How much
mythology,
that,
right?
how much
Yep.
money, what's revenue, what's your operating income, how many staff, how much your product, what markets.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's not talking about like your purpose and your mission, and that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, to go on that journey.
Right.
And I have seen, to your point in the question of, well, I was given the advice, have it separate. Make sure if this is your business, nobody want to follow your life and your business. This is what people used to tell me. I mean, and I've heard this as
Truthfully, I really don't care what most people have for dinner. If you want to know, I'm just.
But
I mean, truthfully.
that's
You put that on, I'm
it's
probably not
interesting.
gonna put a like. I really don't
You
care.
follow Jeff's social media.
Yeah.
His personal social media as founder of Startup Junkie is very much articles that are related to startups, things. You can tell that you've hit
Separated.
you've really made
You've
Startup
hit
Junkie
utopia.
as part of your personal
It
brand
is.
and your interests aligned.
It's indistinguishable, but there are for sure things that I've learned over time that I'm not ashamed of, but that I'm not going to share, just
Right.
because it's not relevant to
Right.
what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
But see, you just said something, and that's very key. It's not you are conscious of what your market
And
is.
that's
you're
what I
trying to
bring in the
strive for.
presentation, is making people
Right.
aware
You have to be
of the
aware of
things,
who
be
you
cognizant of
serve.
what you're choosing to do. Does it help your brand, or
Right.
does it take away from?
I think this is a great topic, and I think I applaud you for having Helena on as the keynote, because I can't think of something that is more important for emerging leaders
Mhm.
or for startups that are trying to build a differentiated brand that they can believe in and that resonates. I'm really
Yeah.
excited about the event.
Can I add one quick point? Another thing I wanted to say around this, Brandon, is it's sometimes it's also generational, right?
Mhm.
A lot of this emerging market of talent want to show their whole self.
Mhm.
They don't want to hide as much. Even though we're brought up in a world of filters, we filter everything, but more people want to unfilter and just say whatever I want to say and show you whatever I want to say. You get what you get. And we are really fighting with that in the workplace.
Sure.
Yes.
What is the professional self versus, don't bring this into the work, don't talk about faith, don't talk about politics, don't show this on your social media, don't show this on LinkedIn. So I do think, it is a struggle, and I think over the next years, it's going to be continuing to have a bigger conversation around, how are we really bringing our whole self to our work, and how do we showcase that, and what do we want to showcase? So these are very great topics to continue the dialogue around entrepreneur community.
Let me end with a
Please.
story. So corporate spends most of my time there. Walmart, Limited Inc. Corporation. That experience, and I've traveled to over 25 different countries, so I definitely have a perspective and point of view of respecting and appreciating other cultures. But I also had a passion and an interest of always serving others. In my church and everything, you would always see me serving others. I love that. I love making people feel good about themselves. I love making you smile. That's a foundation of who I am. So it's not a surprise that I had an opportunity to build a business model of a luxury spa salon in Fayetteville. That salon, in less than 4 years, received national recognition in Day Spa Magazine, a leading publication for that industry, as one of the top 13 spas in the U.S. to keep an eye on. Now that was January of 2011, you can go look up the publication, and then I had the opportunity to sell that to a medical firm here in Northwest Arkansas, Premier Dermatology. They were expanding their business, so it moved to Bentonville. But I use that Kia, and I don't always get a chance to tell that story, that was, and I was the person up front, so I'm the owner, but I was also the spa director. I enjoyed being up front and greeting guests. We did a lot of big private parties.
You take energy from that.
I take energy, and the feedback still today that I get from people that were just regular guests, members, or private party people. They were like, there was something about your aura, the way you received, you were in your calling. When I saw you at the front, it was kind of like whatever I was concerned about or worried about, it just went away. You really put me at ease, and that is probably the best compliment, and that's an example of talking about a business model. And it had a lot of brands, it had a lot of prestigious, Aveda, Bumble, Chopra, Deepak Chopra endorsed our spa. The article in the magazine didn't hurt with that type of exposure.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was about a unique service that I thought was missing in this particular region. It was called East Meets West, so it was a culmination of my travels around the world and recognizing how the Eastern and Western cultures approach beauty and health and wellness. And it ended up, it was a natural. I didn't have to, even though I didn't grow up in the beauty industry. People knew me from retail, mass merchandising, apparel, but I was able to transfer those skills into that industry, and then to receive that type of recognition again speaks to that passion and interest. Really has to be an aspect of that business you create to really be authentic. You can fake it for a little bit, you can fake it for a while, but that's when you see people go, I'm so frustrated in this. I'm doing someone else's passion and interest. This is not me. I have the ability, but I'm really not interested to be a doctor. I really want to think about how many people have law degrees, but they're not working in that field.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on law. I hope there are no attorneys in the room. But we know we do things many times for others,
Right.
or what we think appears to be the dream that society has for us, and you can maneuver through it for a while. But at the end of the day, we're trying to help people at a very young age or young in their career to know how to look at themselves, to get that personal brand started immediately so that you can get on that path and have a long-term success in a bow tie speaking series or company.
And it really is kind of an evolutionary process where you have to take some joy from the journey. I mean, I think people need to be educated that you're not going to get there in one step.
No.
It's going to be a lot of trial and error.
How long, yeah, I mean, I know you gotta end this podcast, but I wanna just say, even Nike, think about how Nike did their brand. When Nike did their brand, it was the check mark with Nike underneath, right? And then over a period of time, what went away? The word Nike. We got accustomed to just seeing the check mark.
Yeah.
Walmart used to have a long tagline, we say to people, now it's just, live better, it's just the
Save
spark.
money, live better. Yeah.
Save money, live better.
Yeah.
So those brands, if they had to evolve and change and refine, I try to make individuals feel comfortable that they need to do the same. It's a process. You don't nail it. You might nail it now for 2019, but you need to check back in on that brand to make sure it's relevant and really as refreshed as it needs to be for 2020 and on. And I think that's why this message keeps coming up as relevant, and I keep getting invited back.
It's sage advice. And Todd, help us land the plane here. Where can people find out more about the Young Professional Summit? When's the event going to be? Give us the final word.
Yeah, awesome. So I would say if you're in Northwest Arkansas or surrounding communities, you can go learn all about the agenda and all the speakers. That we have so many speakers that's coming. Of course, our headliners is Miss Helena and Joe Randall from Walton Family Foundation. But you can go to www.nwaypsummit.com. It gives you all the information. It will be held on August 9th at the Walton Arts Center. This is our 4th year. We're expecting 400 plus young professionals. There's no age limit. The ticket is $50. If you cannot afford $50, please send me the email. We can give you a scholarship. We have so many resources on our website. You can write a letter to your employer to sponsor you. We're going to do so many great things. And the purpose of the summit is to really develop you holistically. So we're not only just talking about professional traits and professional development, we're talking about personal development, personal traits, and community service and community development. So we're partnering with 3 or 4 nonprofits that we're going to have hands-on service projects as a breakout throughout the summit.
As part of it, actually go do something tangible.
Exactly. Because we know we have a better experience when we do that, and we get to connect with what's in our backyard. We're going to have a breakout panel on entrepreneurs, and that's going to be really awesome. A lot of up-and-coming entrepreneurs that's coming there, partnering with you all. So we really appreciate that partnership.
Well, we love being part of it. It's been one of the best events that we've been part of over the years, and we're always proud to be part of it.
No, it's really great, and I will say as we land and end, that at the conclusion of the summit, after we have a hard day of work at Friday learning and networking together, we will then go over to the Amendment and have happy hour after summit social with the band, and the first drink is on us. So if you go, so there you go.
That's the way. That's a great commercial.
Just to try to put it there.
For a podcast that runs on beer and occasionally vodka, that's a good way to end.
This is a great way to end.
Hey, listen, thank you both for being on.
Thank you for having us.
Fantastic discussion, and we wish you both well.
Oh, thank you so much. Y'all continue the great job, and good luck to everyone who's listening.
We'll do it. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good.
No,
I had fun.
That's the way we always do it. It's kind of a meandering road, but you were great sports.
Did you like it?
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was great to see you all.
Thank you. Yeah.